Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Peter Stanton, and I'm the publisher of the Worcester Business Journal. And on behalf of the WBJ and our sponsors, welcome to the second annual Central Mass Manufacturing Summit and Excellence Awards. As we've been covering the manufacturing industry more closely over the last couple years, it's been sobering to realize how little the broader community knows about what you do and its immensely positive impact on our regional economy. But there's a good reason for that lack of awareness. Many manufacturers, as we know, are located in off the main drag industrial parks. They sell their products all over the country or all over the world, and often they're not making a retail product, although there are some retail products here today, but contributing important components to a wide variety of industries. So most manufacturers have their eye trained on operations, not on broadcasting their local impact. So recognition of the achievements of some of the region's leading manufacturing firms can bring a spotlight to exciting things that are happening right here on the ground in Central Mass. And the awards, along with our keynote presentation and panel discussion, is designed to deliver a healthy balance of sizzle and steak. So as the business publication of record in Central Mass, we feel it's our responsibility to do a better job covering the manufacturing industry. So a little over a year ago, we launched a weekly manufacturing e-newsletter, and last fall we debuted, I forgot to bring a copy up with me, but we debuted a new publication called Stuff Made in Central Mass. And we have a table right out there just behind the glass with copies of that on there. It's a workforce development publication, and 80% of its distribution is aimed at middle schools, high schools, colleges, and workforce development organizations throughout the region. So we've had positive feedback on that. We'd love to hear if you get a chance to see it, or if you're familiar with that pub, we'd love to have your feedback, because we're going to be planning a second edition of that this fall. And so any feedback or ideas on that would be much appreciated. We've got a great program ahead of us, and we could not have pulled it off without the community stepping up and supporting this event. So special thanks to our sponsors. That is our presenting sponsor, MassMEP. Thank you. Our corporate sponsor, Shepherd & Goldstein. I saw Terry and his crew are over here. Supporting sponsors, Clinton Savings Bank, James Monroe Wire and Cable Corporation, Marsh & McLennan Agency, Northeast Efficiency Supply, and Quinsigamond Community College. So all of them are involved in one way or the other, serving or in the middle of our manufacturing industry here in this part of the state, and we appreciate all of those organizations stepping up and being part of this event. For some sponsor remarks, I'd like to invite up John Killam, who's the president and CEO of MassMEP, and I want to thank not just John, but Kathy Mahoney, Jack Healy, Peter Russo. That whole team has sort of helped us over the last couple of years understand the manufacturing sector better, make connections, and helped us do a better job in that promotional effort. So thank you all. And John, where is he? There he is. Okay.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome. I really feel like I'm amongst friends here with so many manufacturers in the building. I'd like to thank the Worcester Business Journal for the work that they're doing, keeping manufacturing in front of at least the folks here in Massachusetts. Manufacturers very often are under-recognized. They don't get a lot of promotion. Manufacturers tend to be people that go to work, get their job done, take care of business, and then get right back at it. So today we're celebrating some really great manufacturers who are doing some just wonderful work, excellent work at their facilities, and they're a great example for other manufacturers. We don't do this alone. Worcester Business Journal or Mass Manufacturing Extension Partnership, there's a real ecosystem here in Massachusetts that provides resources and support for manufacturers. The Associated Industries of Massachusetts is here today. Brian Gilmore, who is a great supporter of manufacturing, trying to lift the visibility of manufacturing and keep us in the forefront of not only the state, but also our future customers. And then the folks from Mass Development are here today as well, who are investing heavily in creating growth in our manufacturing ecosystem around the defense sector and other industries within manufacturing to continue to find growth opportunities. So today, I congratulate you, congratulate all the winners. I'm excited. I have an opportunity to present to one of the winners that I know very, very well, and so I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And it's my pleasure to be able to introduce our keynote speaker, who's Ira Moskowitz. And Ira is the Director of Advanced Manufacturing Programs at the MassTech Collaborative, and he's acting as Massachusetts lead for manufacturing innovation. He works in concert with Jay Ash, who we had as last year's keynote speaker. Jay runs the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, and Ira oversees the implementation of Massachusetts Manufacturing's Innovation Initiative, a development program providing nearly $100 million in matching funds to Massachusetts-based projects affiliated with the Manufacturing USA Institutes. And we'll hear, obviously, more details from Ira about that. His bio's in the program, so I'm just going to say he has lots of degrees from prestigious universities. Fancy degrees, prestigious universities. That sort of summarizes like a full paragraph there. After his academic work, he was at AT&T Bell. He was at AT&T Bell Labs and spent several years as Analog Devices Vice President and General Manager of U.S. Operations. Ira also co-chairs the Massachusetts Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative, the state's leadership group of industry, academia, and policymakers that develops strategies for the sector. So you can see, given his background and accomplishments, why the state leaders from the manufacturing industry and we are excited to have him here today and excited to have him driving these important initiatives for Massachusetts. Ira, where are you? There you are.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you for the privilege of speaking to you today about my favorite subject, which is manufacturing. I've been in the manufacturing field and developing technology for manufacturing processes for all of my professional life. And I just want to say to the Worcester Business Journal and MassMEP, I think it's absolutely fantastic that you've decided to do manufacturing awards. You know, we have a lot of awards in this country for innovation and for technology, which is great, and we should do that. And we have maker fairs where people show up and they get a prize for making one of something. But these prizes are really for people who make lots and lots of things on a day-in, day-out basis and with excellence. So it's just tremendous that you've decided to do real manufacturing awards for manufacturing excellence, and I thank you for doing that. It is my hope and my dream, and now it is actually my job, to try to help create a future where Massachusetts is a world leader in advanced manufacturing. And in fact, I believe that we have the opportunity to be the world leader in advanced manufacturing in many aspects. And this is a future that not many places in this country, in fact, not many places in the world can actually claim that opportunity. So we are uniquely actually set up as a state to be able to look to a future where we have the opportunity to be a world leader in manufacturing. And to a great degree, whether we do that or not is in our hands. So what I'd like to do today is share with you a view of the future of manufacturing and how that relates to Massachusetts. So I'm going to talk about this in three categories. The first is to paint a picture of what the future manufacturing technologies look like for the country and for Massachusetts. The second aspect is to talk about what companies need to be like, what kind of qualities and attributes they need to have if they would like to share in that future for advanced manufacturing. And then finally, talk about why I believe that Massachusetts has the opportunity to be a world leader in advanced manufacturing. So I'm going to start with two assertions. before I talk about the advanced manufacturing technologies of the future. And these really are assertions. I haven't proven them, but I know they're true, and you could probably collect the data and go ahead and prove them. But they're very important for thinking about the future. The first is that innovation and manufacturing are inextricably intertwined. That, yes, innovation creates new products, and that creates new manufacturing technologies to make those products. But in the end, the manufacturing then propels and, in fact, begets the next round of innovation. It is certainly my experience, and possibly yours, that if you are not actually manufacturing that innovation, you do not have all the knowledge and capability to then go to the next generation of the innovation. Again, an assertion, but that's my experience. So we cannot maintain a viable technology leadership as a state or as a country if we are not also doing manufacturing, if all that manufacturing goes abroad. The second assertion is that for many of these very advanced technologies, it can take almost 10 years to develop a truly manufacturable technology if you're starting from a standing stop, if you're starting from pure research. If you don't have the equipment yet, that has to be invented. If you don't have the materials, you don't have the processes, it can take you almost 10 years. And even if you have the tools, it can take you as much as 5 years to get to a truly manufacturable technology that's new and innovative and disruptive. So the challenge then is you can't go to your customers and ask them, you know, I need to know what you need 10 years from now exactly, because I need 10 years of lead time to get you there, so just tell me. In fact, in my experience, you can't go to many customers and ask them what they need 5 years from now, because they can't tell you. If you asked folks, you know, 5 years before this thing came out, and you asked them, the people that make this thing, and said, tell me exactly what you need in that kind of phone, because I need 5 years to develop the equipment and the technology, you're not going to get there. Very few people could have predicted that. And in my experience, in fact, most customers can barely tell you what they need next year, despite all their roadmaps. And if they do tell you what they need 5 years from now, they're probably wrong. So the challenge, therefore, is you as manufacturers, we as manufacturers, have to put some bets down. We have to actually develop manufacturing technologies years and years ahead of when the actual products and applications are dreamed up by our customers. And that's quite a challenge, but we have to put those bets down, because we can't wait for them to tell us, because by the time they tell us, we need those 10 years or we need those 5 years, and we won't be ready. So the good news is that this has been done for us. The good news is that the federal government has actually figured this thing out and has told us what the future manufacturing technologies need to be that we need to put some bets down on in order to be a vibrant innovation economy. And these are called, right now, the title is Manufacturing USA. And the way this came about is back in June 2011, the federal government launched an initiative called the Advanced Manufacturing Partnership, or AMP. And they called to Washington, D.C., CEOs, heads of the most innovative companies in the country, university presidents, and they asked them to figure out how do we transform and, in fact, reinvigorate U.S. manufacturing, because they felt the same way in the federal government that we feel, is that if you're not doing the manufacturing, you're really risking your future in terms of innovation. In January 2013, after a lot of work was done by this group, they issued this report, the National Network for Manufacturing Innovation, or if you're familiar with this, the acronym that you may be familiar with is NNMI. And out of that report came a legislation that created into law an act called the RAMI Act that authorized the creation of National Manufacturing Innovation Institutes. And these would be chosen with topics that experts and very forward-looking technologists and business people decided were the most important future manufacturing technologies for this country. Not the products, not the applications, the actual manufacturing processes that this country needed in order to have a viable economy going forward. There are now 14 of these. They were started one by one, and I'm actually going to name them for you one by one, because I think it's absolutely essential that every manufacturer in Central Mass understands what these technologies are, because these really are, and I believe they got it right, the future manufacturing technologies that will keep this country and this state in a leadership position. And And these are the institutes. There's 14 of them. I'm going to read them in alphabetical order, not in the order they were set up or in the order of importance, but in alphabetical order. The first is the FOA, which is the Advanced Functional Fabrics of America. And this is an initiative that is actually creating textiles that are smart textiles, that can see, that can sense the environment, that have electronics and optics built into them to do all kinds of functionality woven into actual textiles. The next is AIM Photonics, which is integrated photonics, creating a whole new generation of technology that can integrate photonic devices into tiny miniature spots, just like the integrated circuit industry. The next is America Makes, which is all about 3D printing aspects. The next is ARM, which is advanced robotics. And RME, which is a regenerative tissue institute for processes that can create regenerative tissue. SESME is clean energy manufacturing and all the kind of infrastructure that goes around technology for that. DMDII, digital manufacturing, the incorporation of digital manufacturing, digital techniques into manufacturing. IACME, the Institute for Advanced Composites Manufacturing Innovation. You can see as each one came along, they got a little more challenged on their acronyms. You know, the good ones were taken, so they had to come up with better ones. But this is about new materials and new composites to be used in manufacturing. LIFT is the creation of materials that are very lightweight for use in manufacturing. NextFlex is to create entire industry where circuits and circuit boards are flexible and they can be rolled up for all kinds of new applications. Remember, it's not about the application, it's about the manufacturing technology to create flexible, rollable circuitry. NIMBLE is the National Institute for Biopharmaceuticals. Power America is to be using advanced semiconductor materials like gallium arsenide and gallium nitride to create a whole suite of new semiconductor materials and manufacturing processes, eventually for the realm of power applications. RAPID, which is to use Rapid Advancement in Process Intensification Deployment Institute. That was a bit of a stretch, I'm sure, to get that acronym together. But that's really convening all kinds of composites and new materials within the manufacturing processes. And finally, REMADE, which is to find ways to reuse and renew and restore materials that are potentially various kinds of waste out of traditional manufacturing techniques. So these are the 14 institutes, and I certainly encourage you here in Central Mass, if you're a manufacturer, and if any of those sound like something that intersects with your business and you're not familiar with it, to get on the website and look it up. Because these 14 really do entail the future of advanced manufacturing for this country. And by the way, lots of other countries have decided the same thing and are pursuing the same thing. So that's the future of manufacturing technologies for the country and for this state. And this state is actually focusing on 5 of those, and I'll talk in more detail about those later. But that is the future of manufacturing. That's where advanced manufacturing is going. So if you want to be a company now that wants to participate in that kind of an advanced manufacturing future, there are certain qualities that you probably need to be looking at. And it doesn't mean you have to have every one of these qualities, but you probably need to be thinking about these qualities 5 years down the road if you want to participate in the supply chain for advanced manufacturing. So if I kind of talk about this, the reason why you need additional capabilities and digital attributes is that these technologies are very complex. And there's no way these are going to come about without an entire ecosystem of partners of all different types working together to create these technologies. They are just extremely disruptive and extremely complex. So I want to talk a little bit about what I'll call the innovation and manufacturing ecosystem, just to put some context as to why the kind of performance needed for companies is going to be required. If we think about most of the people in this room, if you're a manufacturer, you're somewhere in this box. You're either a large OEM that does both R&D and manufacturing. You may be a small or medium-sized company, or perhaps you're a new venture. And we'll just call that the world of manufacturing. And traditionally, you worked with each other, and you created a supply chain, and you ship products. In these kind of technologies, there's a much larger ecosystem that's required in order to create these kinds of advanced technologies that the institutes, these national consortiums, are putting together. For example, you have to be working a lot more closely with universities at all levels, both universities and community colleges, both for future workers as well as for IP and R&D, as well as for policy to advance manufacturing in the country. You should be thinking about the Manufacturing USA Institutes and perhaps become a member and engage with them in terms of your supply chain. You definitely have an issue with making sure that you have trained workers from the labor market. All manufacturers, of course, have to deal with the local community in one way or another. You may even have to deal with some of the VCs or PEs in terms of how they're interacting with companies in your supply chain. You have end customers that, of course, are a big push on this. And with respect to the requirements of the customers, those are continually advancing, and you have to think about that. And then with respect to the state and the federal government, both in terms of regulation, but also in terms of the programs and incentives and grants that are coming out that you may very well need in order to rev up what you have in terms of people skills or technology to join an advanced manufacturing network. You probably need to be more and more part of industry groups because of the complexity and the reach of these technologies. And then finally, you may even have to collaborate with companies overseas, or at least keep an eye on them if they become competitors for what you're trying to do within advanced manufacturing. So it's a very large ecosystem that has to come together to pull off any of those institutes. And that's why each of those 14 institutes is a national collaboration across the entire country that has all of these elements as members of those institutes to pull off those advanced manufacturing technologies. So within that context, there are certain performance attributes that you're going to need to pay attention to join a supply chain for advanced manufacturing of the future. One of them certainly is you need some capability that's required by that advanced manufacturing supply chain. Something that is synchronized with where those manufacturing institutes are going and where the customers are going. And I was thinking about some of the award winners today and some of their strengths with respect to this. And I think one of the reasons why the companies listed today that are receiving awards because they're actually thinking in this kind of futuristic mode. Think about MTD or Kinefac or F&M. These are companies that are really well known for understanding and staying, in fact, a step ahead of their customers' needs and think about what their technology capabilities are relative to their customers. Think about 100% on-time delivery. If there's one thing that I would say after having something customer needs is you have to be on time. In the terms of these advanced technologies and the complexity of that entire supply chain you see on the right, you can't be late. If you have a piece of that, whether you're prototyping or you're in the supply chain, it is so complex you can bring down the entire supply chain if you're late. So being on time and meeting the commitments is probably more important than anything else in terms of an attribute. And thinking about some of the companies today, you think about Oyo, where they have this fantastic ability to turn their products and their capabilities extraordinarily quickly. And that's the kind of mindset that you'd have to stay on top of the time frames that are required and time to market that's required of advanced manufacturing. Zero defects. So these systems are very, very complex. You know, this product has a lot of components in it. The products of the future will probably have many orders of magnitude more. And if all those components of that system had some finite probability of failure, and you take the multiplicative effect of all those parts in there, the yield on the end system will absolutely be zero. So you actually have to be driving towards zero defects, near perfect quality. The systems and the applications that will come out of this advanced manufacturing will be so complex that it cannot tolerate any of the components to have anything but perfect quality. And then finally, cost reduction. Most of your big customers have a price down roadmap that they have to meet for their customers. If you serve the automotive industry, you know most of that's even contractual. If you have a contract, every year you have to reduce your price. So being the supply chain, in fact, you need a cost reduction roadmap of some kind so that your customers are confident you can keep them on that list. And think about organizational attributes. One of those is something that's talked about a lot, manufacturing 4.0 or industry 4.0, which is really the combination of smart analytics and artificial intelligence and all those kinds of things in factories. I actually don't like this term. I'm always afraid that Germany said, we created industry 4.0, and then some other country is going to say, well, we have 5.0. And then some other country will say, well, we got 6.0. So the term is sort of meaningless, but it really implies is all that kind of data and analytics being implemented in your manufacturing lines. And the result of that is that then challenges the skills of your workforce. So your workforce has to come up to speed with much better analytical skills at all levels, from the hourly workers and technicians right through your engineers. We do have some award winners today, though, that I think are really representative of that. Vibrem, for example, If you look at some of their, what they're doing there, it looks a lot more like that picture on the slide in terms of screens and analytics than a lot of other manufacturing companies, and I'm sure that's an element of their excellence. And if you look at what Lampen is doing in terms of workforce training, they're also well ahead of the curve in terms of making sure their workforce has the kind of skills required for the kind of Industry 4.0 future. The next thing you have to have is, this is becoming increasingly just paramount for a company to survive, is to be a leader in environmental health and safety and in ethics and in fair labor practices. This has become the way actually many stocks are now evaluated by the stock market as to whether your sustainability rating is high enough to deserve the kind of stock price that you have. You talk about Seaman Paper, one of the award winners today, who is absolutely a leader and has taken this to heart, and part of their business model really is to be known as a leader in environmental issues. You also need increasingly management leadership skills to try to pull off what's required by that ecosystem, and these advanced technologies puts even more and more pressure on having excellent management and leadership skills. And then you also need to assure your customers through what's called ERM, or Enterprise Risk Management, that you will never shut them down. And you have all kinds of risk avoidance procedures and capabilities so that if you're part of that complicated supply chain, you are not going to disrupt it by anything that happens in your factory. And then finally, you just have to be extremely adaptable. And if you look at some of the work Cogmedix has done in that's receiving an award today, that's one of their features, certainly, is to be extraordinarily adaptable to the changing dynamics of the markets and technology. So this is where I sometimes have small and medium-sized companies come up to me and they say, I don't buy it. I don't need this. I'm fine. I don't need any of that futuristic Star Trek, Institute stuff. And I don't need the Industry 4.0. We're profitable. We're doing great. We just need a few more skilled workers, but if we had that, we'd be fine. And to those folks, I say, great, all the power to you. Keep it up. I do encourage you to look at those 14 institutes, though, because that is the future of manufacturing in this country and in the state. And it doesn't mean your model is not going to work, but you certainly may be missing an opportunity in order to engage that advanced manufacturing of the future. I also have SMEs that come up to me and said, I buy it. I've drunk the Kool-Aid and I believe all your futuristic stuff, but I'm dead in the water here. I don't have the ability to catch up to that. I can't implement modern manufacturing systems. I have a machine shop and it's traditional tools and I can't afford anything else, and now I'm really scared. So for those companies, I would say, if that's really true and you can't get there from here, there are lots of state programs, and I'll talk about them later, and you should be looking them all up and getting assistance. In addition to that, the other thing to think about is business models in terms of what you're doing and in terms of what this kind of future advanced manufacturing technologies require. So I'll give you an example of that. At the Massachusetts Manufacturing Summit last year, and I was on a panel there of OEMs, and I had a guy come up to me at the end, and boy, I don't know if he's here or not. I better make sure the story is right. I may be embellishing this a bit if you're here, but the person came up to me and gave me his card, and he said, we do fast turn. We do one-day turn. It might not have said 1 day. He might have said 3 days. I don't remember what he said, but he said, we do really, really fast turn. And I said, fast turn on what? And he said, whatever you want. We're prototyping masters. We do super fast turn. He said, I have a traditional machine shop, nothing fancy, traditional machines doing metal work, but I have partners I've lined up that will work with me and do 1 day turn on whatever you want. Plastic extrusion, we'll combine together, we'll make the prototype, we'll guarantee you 1 day for a very large premium. Well, I was a big OEM, and we're doing this stuff all the time. So I said, give me your card. I need that. I'll pay a lot to get a 1 day turn. So here's a person who's not implementing Industry 4.0. He's not trying to do all kinds of modern high precision stuff. He's got a business model. And you can imagine those 14 institutes revving up in 5 years, needing extraordinary fast turn and prototypes, and this guy's there with this business model. Another example that I'll give you at the end of the thing, this actually is true, because this one I'm not embellishing, is we were having a talk, a few of us on the side, with a few metal machine shop operators, and we were talking about what do you do about this model of the future? And I said to them, my campus at the time at Analog Devices, large campus, big manufacturing campus, we have a machine shop. In fact, I would guess that virtually all large OEMs that are doing manufacturing, no matter what kind of technology, probably have a machine shop on campus. And they probably wish they didn't have to operate it because it's not their business. So we were a semiconductor facility, and we had a machine shop. I don't really want to worry about a machine shop, and it's not my technology, but I have to have it for all kind of prototyping runs, as well as occasionally a tool goes down, and we have to make a piece part to keep a tool running for the factory. So I said to them, what if you guys did a model? Think about this at 14 centers developing manufacturing factories of the future all through Massachusetts, and all of them have machine shops. What if you did a model where you took over that machine shop? So you stay in the heart of your core of your business, but you've got all these high-tech factories that need machine shops. And what if you came to them and said, look, I'll take that over for you. We'll work out a deal by which somehow I get the equipment. I'll take your employees. They'll be mine now. And that turns out to be a concept. If you did 5 or 6 or 7 of those, that would be really worthwhile. I certainly would have done that in a heartbeat, because I don't know how to staff a machine shop on a semiconductor campus. I can either understaff it, in which case everybody's screaming because they don't get anything in time, or I can overstaff it and everybody gets everything in time, but to a manufacturer, you won't sleep at night if you have excess staff sitting around, idle half the time because it's kind of a job shop. So we kind of talked about that campus. So you can imagine 14 of these institutes, new factories spring up everywhere, and your business may be metal machining, but you can join that whole technology future. In other words, the water rises all the boats, and there may be a way for you to participate if you really think about your business models. So it's not simply that you have to somehow become high-tech and join this thing. Somehow, maybe there are business models that you can join this thing. If all kinds of factories spring up that are doing that kind of work, there's certainly opportunities for everybody, almost regardless of what your business is. So now I want to talk about why Massachusetts really can have a leadership position within this future. Manufacturing has always been a critical part of the Commonwealth's economy. We have over 7,000 companies here, hundreds of thousands of employees. The average salary of a manufacturing employee is actually about $20,000 a year higher than the average salary of lots of other functions. And certainly manufacturing will continue to play a critical role, but it will be in a different framework. It will certainly be part of this rapidly evolving technology framework. Some of our strengths that lead us to claim that we can have a world-leading, if not the world-leading position in advanced manufacturing. We are a global leader in innovation, entrepreneurship, and R&D. There's no doubt about it. There are lots of statistics that prove that. This state is #1 in the country in R&D spending, both in terms of GDP and per capita. We're the #1 in technology transfers into manufacturing. We're the #1 in science and engineering articles, and the list goes on and on. We have a larger density and diversity of technology companies than any other state in the country, almost. We have everything from innovation to prototyping to manufacturing in one state. We certainly, without question, have a world-class education system, and certainly a lot of the universities and community colleges here in Central Mass are proof of that. We also contain all the parts, all the dimensions of what I showed for advanced manufacturing in one small state. And that's actually critical. And we're here in Massachusetts, and we don't really understand what an advantage that is, because a lot of this stuff has to be done face-to-face. And we talked about co-location of innovation and manufacturing and how critical that is. But we don't really have that mindset and appreciate that. Sometimes I talk to folks in Boston, and they say, oh, I have to go to Worcester today. Oh, I got to go all the way to Worcester, a 40-minute drive. If you're in California and you're in San Francisco and you got to go to LA, that's a 3-day meeting. If you're in New York City and you got to go, upstate New York to Rochester, that could be a 3-day meeting. So this is a fantastic asset that we have. We can drive across all the way out to Amherst and back from Boston in 1 day and have a meeting and go face-to-face with other people in the same supply chain. And that is a huge advantage, and there's no state in the country that can really claim that. We also believe we have a history as a state of innovation. We had the original Tea Party. We break rules. We have lots of civic leadership and history in that. We have one of the best, if not the best, startup ecosystems in the country. We have a leadership presence in Manufacturing USA, and I'll talk about in a moment, but we have more investment in these 14 institutes than any other state in the country, with the possible exception of New York State, depending on how they measure that. And we certainly have a world-class healthcare and an attractive New England lifestyle, as long as you like the freezing cold and the snow. Other than that, it's great. We also have a lot of state programs that we are increasing looking at developing, but we already have some in place that are absolutely nationally leading programs. One of those is the Massachusetts Manufacturing Innovation Initiative. That is the program that I oversee in conjunction with Housing and Economic Development. This is a substantial national leading commitment that Governor Baker and the legislature, in their foresight, put out there as legislature to ensure the future of the economy of Massachusetts. While there is activity in Massachusetts in various companies and their membership probably in all 14 of these institutes, the state has committed over $100 million for capital grants to universities, to companies of all sizes, in order to progress the forward motion of these 5 institutes in Massachusetts. And they are AFOA, which is the Advanced Functional Fibers of America, which is the institute that is creating textiles, clothes, outfits, tents, all kinds of textile equipment that is filled with all kinds of electronics and sensors that is actually a functioning system. AIM Photonics, again, as I talked about before, which is taking the world of lasers and lenses and optics and mirrors and making them miniaturized just like an integrated circuit. ARM, again, the Robotics Institute, creating more advanced robotics. NextFlex is the flexible electronics I talked about before. And finally, Nimble, which is the Biopharmaceutical Institute. So here's where I have an ask for you here in Central Massachusetts. We have over $100 million of capital grants. We have given lots of them out already last year, and every year we give out more, and that is the program that I oversee. And I would say most of them so far have been in the greater Boston area, but there is plenty of opportunity here in Central Mass for you to participate in these institutes and be potential grantees of this kind of money. So my ask to you is, if you are a manufacturer and a company in this area, to be getting on those websites and looking up what they are and understand whether you can interact with these in some manner, whether join a partnership with other companies that are members, perhaps be a member yourself. For small companies, there are various entry levels in terms of the membership fees. Sometimes it's simply in-kind membership in terms of investment. And see if you can actually qualify for these. Part of what I really want to do is spread these grants from Greater Boston into Central Boston, into Western Mass, and all parts of Central Massachusetts and Western Mass, and all parts of the state. So that's my ask, is to look into this and see if your company could somehow be part of this. And of course, please talk to me about it. If you can't get to me today, contact me, and let's discuss whether or not this is a possibility for your company. Just let me give you an example of why this is so important to the state, these technologies. One example, for example, AIM Photonics, where the state has committed $28 million worth of grants. I'll give you an example. This is an example for a device that's called LiDAR, light detection and ranging. If you've seen these self-driving cars, autonomous vehicle experimental cars out there, the key element of these cars is on top of the thing, there is this box. There is this contraption that is usually connected through all this hardware, and on top of the car there is this device that's spinning around with lasers that's actually bouncing laser light off all its surroundings and detecting the surroundings. And that's how self-driving vehicles, the core of them, that's how really they're going to work. That's what the system looks like. It's usually cost $50,000 to $100,000 to put it on top of one of these experimental cars. Through integrated photonics, this is a prototype of what that would look like. So this isn't actually packaged, so it would be a little bit bigger in a package, but basically that thing on the right replaces the entire contraption on the left. This is why the state is investing over $100 million in these future manufacturing technologies. So here's a list of the current state programs supporting manufacturing. I'm obviously not going to go through this, but the purpose of this is just to show you there is a huge breadth, and most manufacturing companies aren't even aware these things are there. There's workforce training grants, and I'm sure that if I asked what's the #1 challenge you have as a manufacturer, it's finding skilled workers. And there is a series of workforce training grants, including grants for your current employees to improve their skills and be retrained. Business support, finance, site selection, tax credits. Even if you're an exporter, there's support helping you go through the exporting process. Most of these you can find under mass.gov. Some of them you can find under Mass Development. MassMEP, of course, is a big assistance, particularly to small and medium-sized companies. And if you can't find it exactly there, I'm sure in the search on mass.gov, you can find a link somewhere to these programs. So there's a couple I want to point out right there in the middle. The M2I2 program, the one I talked about before with the $100 million of grants, the program that I oversee. If you go onto the MassTech website, which is the state agency that I work for, and you'll find a link to the M2I2 program with my contact information and a little more information. The other thing I want to talk about is we also have internship programs. At MassTech, there is an internship program where we will pay up to 50% of the cost of an intern if you're a company with 100 employees or less. So there's various aspects of that program that you can find on the MassTech website, and I think there are actually flyers out on the Worcester Business Journal table that you can pick up, or you can talk to me and I can link you to that. But that's just some examples of the myriad of state programs that are out there to support you as a manufacturer and help you gear up for this kind of advanced manufacturing of the future. Final slide that I have before I conclude is to talk about a group called the Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative. And what this is the legislature commissioned a group to be under the sponsorship of the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. And what this group does is looks to strengthen ways for growth and for innovation for advanced manufacturing companies in the state. And the job of the group, of which I have the privilege of being a co-chair, is to organize and mobilize resources and action to improve the conditions in the state for manufacturers. There's about 25 to 35 members. It is a cross-functional group of government, state agencies, industry of all different sizes. And last year, we actually initiated a new effort to create a new, bold 5-year vision for advanced manufacturing for the state. There are a number of members I see here who are on the committee, so they know what I'm talking about. And we're just getting done with this. It has to get vetted by the governor before we can issue it. But that will be a new vision. And the reason I bring it up is that I know there are many challenges for manufacturers in the state. There's challenges in finding workforce. There's challenges in terms of electricity costs and finding the cost of capital and all kinds of other issues that I know we struggle with as manufacturers. But this committee is actually looking at all those issues, looking at those challenges, and is going to be working to find ways to plug those gaps. So my final slide, in conclusion, we have tremendous opportunity for companies here in central Massachusetts in advanced manufacturing in the future. There will be new jobs, although we do have to pay attention to the upscaling, particularly in terms of analytics and data analysis. We are certainly well positioned as a state to be a leader in this innovation and manufacturing ecosystem. And to quote the Manufacturing USA folks, it's all about innovation, collaboration, and education. So let's work together to realize this vision. Thanks very much. Any questions? It's all I have time for 1 or 2 questions. Peter.
Will you be issuing how you can qualify for the grants you mentioned on the institutes?
The question is, will I be issuing how you can qualify for the grants? So I have this new website up, and the best way is actually to contact me, and I can explain the qualifications. We have a criteria document and an application process. It's not yet up on the web. That's why you have to contact me. But probably within a month, that all the details will actually be up there in terms of qualifications. But the most important thing is it has to be a project that either you're a member of one of the institutes or you're partnering with a member of one of the institutes. That's the most important criteria. Great. If you have any other questions or you want to know more about any of this information, please do see me during a break or afterwards. Thanks very much.
Ira, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. Lots to chew on. I am going to introduce Peter Russo. Peter is the Growth and Innovation Program Manager at MassMEP, and he was our moderator a year ago, and he did such a fabulous job, we said we got to have you back again. Peter's going to introduce his panel, and you can take it from there.
Okay, before I introduce the panel, let me just get started. And I was asked to be basically the warm-up band. So that's our role up here today, and that's what I promised each of these people. So first of all, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Come on, a little bit better than that. Good afternoon. All right. Now that we're on the same page, we can start discussing and celebrating our differences. So before I get started, let's raise your hand if you remember the launch of the best-selling book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Okay, you're probably a boomer, okay? That's probably what you stand for. Now, raise your hand if you know the difference and have a distinct decision to make when you're deciding to post to Facebook versus Instagram. Okay, or do you know the difference between the sites Tinder and Bumble? Okay, you're probably a millennial. A good percentage of the other people that are sitting there saying, wait a minute, I thought Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus was a bad sitcom, not a book, or you're sitting there saying, geez, Instagram, I'm just getting used to Twitter, you're probably a Generation X. And those are the combination of groups that we tend to think of. Here's what's interesting about that. We all love to throw it into age ranges. We love to say it's a certain birth date, it's a certain age range, and it's not. It's a belief. It's not age, it's belief. And it's a belief basis that you have. So it does tend to come with time, and it does tend to change with the ages. So before we start, let me just give you a quick highlight to give you a feel for how it's changed. So first you have the baby boomers. And baby boomers, there's only 4 parts to each of this. So a baby boomer has what's driving them in their work life and their private life is loyalty comes first. That's the utmost center of their belief. The next thing is work ethic within work and their work environment. The next thing is they expect a career path. Baby boomers grew up with the idea that if I follow a path, a certain path, I will get promoted, there will be space, and I'll move on. And their compensation was directly tied to this. So it's really a simple, frankly, a simple time in a simple belief that many people still have. Loyalty is first, work ethic second, job path is third, and at the bottom, compensation will come with it. These beliefs get changed, adapted. Some of it gets adopted, some of it gets adapted over time. Now, boomers are usually thought of people over 55, because I know all of you are still sitting there saying, am I a boomer or not? If you're over 55, you're considered a boomer by most research studies. Then you get into Generation X people, and they're a little bit different. They took that aspect of loyalty, and they said, loyalty is great on the job, but in addition to that, I need work-life balance. So they shifted it a little bit. Loyalty is great, but I want work-life balance. And they said that relative to ethic, the job ethics, that was critical, and that was true, but they also wanted to move over into job satisfaction. And they said that their pathways are important, but oh, by the way, it's not just pathways. I want to be identified for my personal achievement. So it's not just enough to go up in the organization. I want personal achievements designed. And as far as compensation, they said compensation is great, but stability is even better. And then finally, you move on to millennials, and their beliefs change slightly too. So the Generation X usually thought of between 30 or 35 and 55, 50, 55. Then you've got the people under 35 or under 30, depending on who you talk to, and they're millennials, and how did their minds change this whole scenario? So they took that loyalty that moved over into work-life balance, and they said, I need a meaningful job. And then they took that whole area of work ethic that changed over into satisfaction, and they said, I want a creative outlet. Right, now, I'm a boomer. Creative outlet was called a hobby, and it wasn't done at work, unless you were lucky enough to turn it into a job. But the millennials want to have a meaningful job. And they took that whole career path that the Generation X then said, gee, I want something more. I want personal capability, personal achievement. And the millennials said, well, that's not as important to me. I want collaboration. They want to collaborate. And then finally, on compensation, the millennials turned around and said, on top of everything else, I want immediate feedback. So now here's the problem. We're here today to discuss millennials to boomers in one company, how you keep everyone efficient, effective, and happy at their job. And so with that easy scenario at hand, I'll introduce the panel. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever created a panel or an event like this, but it's really a challenge because you want to make the ideal panel. So let me tell you why this is the ideal panel. We wanted to pick large companies, not so large companies, different industries, different positions within the companies, and different technology levels at different companies. So we have the whole range of types of companies here. So we have Kathy Rentsch, and Kathy is the Dean of the School of Business, Engineering and Technology for Quinsigamond Community College. And then we have Nicole Zia. Nicole works for Saint-Gobain. Saint-Gobain's giant billion-dollar company, international company. She's a plant manager. and she is in charge of Superabrasives plant. Then we have Julie Fehlmann. Julie is a senior project engineer. In the brochure, it says project engineer. She was promoted, so she wants credit for that right now. Okay, because she's a millennial, and even though she doesn't care to identify with personal achievement, she gets it. So she works for Flexcon. Flexcon's a private company, but by most people's standards, it's a good-sized company. And although it did work with, it does a traditional business per se, it's constantly updating its technology. And finally, we have Laura Richards. And Laura is the HR business partner at IPG Photonics, one of the fastest growing companies in Massachusetts, one of the most technologically advanced companies that you could probably run into. So we have a combination of educators, plant supervisors, engineers, and HR personnel. So it's the perfect scenario. So let me start out with how we're gonna approach this in 3 key areas. We're going to talk about workforce and pathways, how you create pathways for your employees under all these types of people, because you can only do one. You can't have a different pathway based on whether you're a millennial or a boomer, but you need to have it fit everybody. So you have workforce pathways, knowledge creation and knowledge transfer, and then finally recruitment. So now I got all my nervous energy out, I can sit down. So. All right. So Nicole, we'll start out with you. You have an interesting challenge in your business. You have lots of people coming in, you have lots of people retiring. How do you know where to focus at any particular time, and where's your current focus on creating pathways? Who do you address it to?
We have to go across the board. So whether it be someone on the shop floor or someone in an engineering role, everyone is retiring at this point. We have kind of the silver tsunami moving through our factory right now, and we've had more turnover in the past 3 months than in a very long time. So what we try to do is really clearly define what we need moving forward for a particular job, and then we find a way of objectively measuring that and then giving people feedback as to where their gaps are so that we can help to develop those skills, because we know that same position may open up very shortly. So I can give an example. We have a technician, his name is Kevin. He came from Worcester Vocational School. He worked his way up from the floor. He became a technician, and we had a supervisor position open up through a retirement. He raised his hand, said, I wanted to be a supervisor, and he went through the interview process. He was pretty good, but when we started to do, we have a measurement system essentially through the interview process, and we said, well, you're really good in the technical skills, but you don't know anything about continuous improvement, you don't know anything about people development, and you can't do this job without those skills. We had another person with that same gap, and they both took it 2 different ways. The one that I'm not talking about basically said, you're wrong, I deserve the job. The other one, Kevin, said, I want to learn. He raised his hand, he said, I want to learn. So we developed him. He ended up getting our first green belt. We have a world-class manufacturing program. He got our first green belt as an hourly employee. It was the best health and safety green belt I've ever seen, managed a lot of risk that none of us had ever seen. As a brand new piece of equipment coming in. And we were able to say to him, you've got your WCM or your world-class manufacturing, plus we got him some skills training. And so when the next job came up, which happened to be in inventory control, he had all those gaps filled, so then we were very easily able to walk him into that next job. So it doesn't really matter what their position or age are, it really has to do with what skills we need for the job and how we continuously make that clear to them what those goals are and how to fill those gaps.
Now, in that case, you were able to fill that gap with internal training. When there's a gap that doesn't involve internal training, when you're, first of all, you'd come to MassMEP for workforce training strategies and any other of your needs. How did I do, John, wherever you are? Okay. But, what do you do when there's that gap and it's not an internal gap and you need to go to the outside because to fill it?
It's actually good you asked. We have come to MassMEP. But actually, I just reached out to Kathy's team. So we're looking at Quinsig and other area schools to essentially help support us.
Kathy, what happens if someone comes to you, in this case, and it's not a program that you currently offer? Okay. Is there any way to customize or?
Absolutely. So we work with employers like Saint-Gobain all the time. They're looking for some specific training. It may not be part of our regular academic credit offerings, but we have a workforce development arm that does customized training for corporations either on site or in our facilities. So we work with them to find out really where their pain points are, and what they're looking for in terms of technologies and growth. We're actually doing that with several of the companies in this room right now, actually. So yes, we do.
Now, it's interesting, though, because right now with our relatively low unemployment, I'm curious, what happens when a student, a company wants you to fill the gap? Everyone here says, I love to train my employees. I like to train them more when it's something I need them to know. How do you help balance that where they can get the short-term need while still, is there a way to plan long-term both for the employer, eventually for the person, but also so that the person can work towards a certification or a graduate degree?
Yes, so in preparing for this, I spent some time with some of our students over the last week, got to sit in on some classes and just talk to people, ask questions. So it's a very interesting mix of students that we get at a community college. I like to think Quinsigamond's unique, but I think our students are very representative of community colleges across this state and across the country. So we have many of our students are already working in manufacturing. They may have had an identified skill gap that an employer has asked us to work with them to train, but they have other skills, or they have done other training with the company or other places, the MassQuick training being a very good example, another plug for MassMEP. We credential that training, so if people come in with their industry certifications, they may have gotten a lean certification somewhere, they may have the MassQuick training, they may be a certified SolidWorks associate. We have ways that we can take their experience and education and credential it, and then help them see how that applies to a pathway if they want to continue towards a college certificate or ultimately a degree. So we like to work with them. We know the company's working with them on a plan, and then we like to help them link that plan to what an education pathway looks like with us and beyond.
Excellent. Julie. You're our millennial. You're our representative of a particular group. What pathways have you seen in manufacturing, either at your company or other peers of yours? What pathways are laid out within that?
Yes, so I've been really fortunate because I was able to take advantage at Flexcon of their education reimbursement program. And within that program, you have to fill out a career development pathway. And it gets filed, and you can redo it as many times. I've redone mine 3 times. And it's offered to everyone in the company, and for me, that was a huge selling point. I mean, honestly, working for Flexcon, because I knew I wanted to go back to school. Nowadays, you constantly have to be competing, and you need to be getting new certifications, your masters. It's competitive. So that was a big selling point.
Kathy, do you see a lot of companies doing reimbursements?
Yes, so the students that I was with over the last couple of days were kind of a good profile for me. I would say I talked to about 20 students, and I would say maybe about 1/3 of them are on a tuition reimbursement. But they made the point of saying that they got hired into the company, these students in particular, with some basic skills and really good attitude. That's how they describe themselves. And it wasn't until they could actually demonstrate that they could contribute that they could start to participate in tuition reimbursement. But definitely the other students who are not yet working in manufacturing see and understand that that's a way that they can pay for their additional and ongoing schooling.
Laura, is there any, when you have tuition reimbursement?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
How do you don't regulate what they can take exactly. How do you encourage them to take courses that help the company? How do you balance? Encourage them to take courses that help the company with not wanting to be restrictive.
We do encourage them to take business-related courses, but it doesn't have to be IPG-specific or high-tech. So we encourage them to do that. It is an underutilized benefit, though. If you look at our population, we often remind employees that they have that available, they forget or whatnot. And we also support the managers and supervisors so that they remember that that's available. And if I throw it back to Kathy, when we were talking about programs, IPG had a gap of photonics. There wasn't anybody in the area teaching photonics. So through a few years working with Kathy and her team, they now offer a photonics program at Quinsig, and it's a pipeline to jobs, real jobs.
How much does a company have to guarantee Quinsig or any other place that you, if you can speak in general, to get them to do a course? I mean, where does I always tell people when they're working with a supplier to know how the supplier makes money, because otherwise you're going to run into problems eventually.
Right.
How do you judge where it's worth it for the college to make a specific program?
So if we're doing customized work for a corporate client on the, in our language, the non-credit side, we would do that. If the company sees a need and they have the people and the resources and they want to go forward, we would do that immediately. We often use our workforce side as the vetting to see, is there a larger need? Is this a pathway we should be exploring as a more traditional credit program, something that we might do for either a certificate or degree, or that we might do in connection with our transfer partners. Our engineering program has a very tight and very great articulation with WPI. Our students graduate. If they do B or better, they go in as full juniors at WPI at very attractive scholarships along with that. But we have to get a sense of the demand before we go through the process of bringing it to the credit side of the house. Sometimes the customized training is where it should be, and we can generate enough interest from that side.
Who would a company talk to about, gee, we have, that's a great example, an entirely new area. It's not just a gap, it's a marketplace. Who would they talk to?
So this is what I'm going to say. I think they should talk to me, and then I'm going to make sure they get to the right person. Because if we start naming names and offices,
that's fine.
I'll take all the calls. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to put Kathy's phone number
That's right.
and thing on the screen. Laura, you have an interesting company because you've been growing like crazy, highly technical, a lot of people coming in. How do you have these people with high expectations that are coming into your organization? How do you create a pathway to keep them? How do you make way for them to move up and stay so you don't lose it, lose the knowledge?
Right. I think one of the attractiveness of some of the opportunities are working directly day-to-day with the senior scientists. So for example, if we're bringing in a junior engineer, a junior scientist, because we're vertically integrated in our structure, they get to work day-to-day with really smart minds. And in some companies, you don't get that direct contact, and that's very appealing when we're interviewing. Oh, who will I be working for? Oh, every day? Yes. So I think that's been a benefit that we have. Our senior scientists are also our product line managers, so they're responsible for concept, development, design, manufacturing.
Do you tend to promote from within or bring people from the outside?
Yeah, we'll look inside first, and it's not as structured as some other organizations. We're new, so it's the tap on the shoulder, merit-based, who comes in, who shines, who's the superstar. They are noticed and they are promoted if they're interested. If they're not, and they don't, as your example was, they believe they're more, have more there than they do, then we move on. But
well, that helps us move on to the next topic area. So that's an overview of pathways and some of the ways that these companies do it. Moving on to the knowledge transfer side of things, we often talk about knowledge transfer being the issue because of the silver tsunami, as you say, of people retiring. But there's also the knowledge acceptance side of things, because with new people coming in, whether they're millennials, Generation X, or boomers with changing careers, because there's a lot of movement now with the idea that boomers are tending to work 5 to 10 years longer than they did in the past, by choice, mostly. But it's been found that if you change your career at 50, you're more likely to stay working longer if you change your career. So it's an interesting thing. How do you Nicole, deal with the whole, you have an interesting scenario. How do you deal with the idea of there's a lot of art to your business in addition to a skill base? There's tools, there's skills, there's standard work, but there's also an art element to it. How do you help promote that?
So we've really had to embrace structured training. I think in the past it was this osmosis training where you stand next to somebody and hope by osmosis in 6 months or a year that they've kind of absorbed everything they're supposed to. And what we've learned is we have to get better at that. It can't be 6 months or a year because we typically don't get that much notice when someone's leaving. But in addition to that, that art form has to be translated into actual demonstratable skills. So we've moved more into like a training with an industry type of mode where you document the skills necessary. Not only do you make sure they know the theory, but they understand the whys and the hows of what they're doing, but then they also have to demonstrate capability and capacity before they're allowed to go off on their own. So we've, like I said, had a pretty big turnover in the last few months, and I won't say we're actively embracing it. It's a different mindset. It's a different culture. But what we're trying to remind all of our supervisors and our management team is we have to get good at this. And the only way you can do that is by showing that there's a defined way of training, and it's the right way of training. So you have a train the trainer program to make sure that the person training is effective rather than just somebody miserable sending on a bad culture. Not everyone is built to be a trainer. So those are the type of things we've embraced as part of that process.
So I've heard other companies say it's a great opportunity. As people retire, it's a great opportunity to document things. It's a great opportunity to take an art and turn it into a little bit of a science. Have you found that, or are you feeling, whenever I hear someone say, well, it takes 5 years for someone to learn that job, I cringe because I think, oh my gosh, I hope they hold them for another 5 years after that. What are you finding?
I find that it is really useful. I mean, we've had examples now where we're training new people and finding that the procedures perhaps documented. They're saying, well, yeah, that's what it says on the training sheet, but this is what I really do. And then when that person leaves and is retired, they come along and they're like, yeah, you shouldn't have done it the way they just trained it, because now there's a significant number of rejections. So what we make sure we do is document, and I think it's been really beneficial to us. It's been a resistance. No one wants to sit there and write an SOP, so we've had to get creative with the visual aspect, because not a lot of people have the attention span to read a 35-page SOP, nor is it the right way to learn most of the time. So we do sometimes just one-point lessons or Kaizen activities where we're training kind of as a hands-on. But we have to document it, and we're learning a lot in the process. We're simplifying it and going, oh, that art really doesn't take a 50-page manual of flipping through. It's literally one table of information.
Curiosity. I'm going to catch you really out of left field because it was 2 years ago I was at a Saint-Gobain event unrelated to even knowing you. And they had, I think, a division or purchased a company that was using high-end technology, including Google Glasses, to track people's activity when they were retiring, to gauge, how someone did their day. So someone didn't have to sit there and say, here's step 3, 4, 5. Have you ever used that, or is this anything you're familiar with? Okay.
No.
It's interesting, though, the point, and I was just curious, and I know I caught you out of left field with that, but it's very interesting as we talk about all the things that Ira showed. And I happen to know that HP is also heavily into this. There's going to be amazing technology for tracking what people are doing so that we can learn better what people who are leaving their job are doing and then modify it. Julie, you have senior people at your organization, and it was funny when I was talking to you before, you were saying, again, it's a little bit of the belief statement I was saying. There's not necessarily boomers who are all the ones transferring the knowledge. There's junior people, and you work in teams and so forth. How does your company or other things that you know about that help transfer that both incoming new knowledge and transfer the knowledge for the people that are leaving?
Yeah, well, actually, Flexcon just started doing dynamic teams. So I actually recently worked on a team, and it wasn't based on age. It was based on background. So I actually was the operations person. There was someone that was on procurement. There was someone in R&D and sales. And so we were able to learn from each other, and I probably learned more in that period of time working with them faster than I would have ever learned, and I think vice versa. And so you could easily learn from each other, pick up new skills, and understand new processes faster. So that's how we've been doing it. to not age-based, obviously.
So you have a department, you said, that Flexcon doesn't have much turnover because it's a great place to work. But when people do leave, they've been in the job a long time and they have a lot of, I'm sure, knowledge that they don't even think to transfer on. What do you do once someone retires?
Well, my department, actually, we're probably the rare department in our organization because we already had that. We had everyone leave, and we have a completely new department, and nothing fell apart completely, which is good news. But what we ended up doing was we didn't have a lot of documentation as well, and it was a lot of, I sat with people, and I created a relationship with 2 of the guys, and to this day, I still text with one of them and ask, what's going on with this equipment and stuff. So I still have that resource, and Flexcon in general actually keeps such a tight-knit community because people had worked there for so long, which is really awesome. And people were not just working together, but they were, had friendly relationships. They were able to keep an email base, so even people that retired know what's going on, who gets promoted.
So retired people have emails?
Yeah, they get notifications.
I mean Flexcon email.
Oh, yeah.
So they keep your company direct involvement with retirees.
Yeah.
And do you ever contact them?
Oh, yeah, actually, our director that just retired emailed me after my promotion, and we exchange emails back and forth, and they come back on site sometimes. We do a luncheon where everybody kind of gets together, and it's really nice. It keeps a nice camaraderie, but also when you are wondering and struggling through certain problems of why a piece of equipment was set up a certain way, you can actually go back and ask someone the reasoning behind it, which is really nice.
Kathy, when you talk to your students,
Right.
how are they finding the collaboration with the companies that they're going into? Is there high cooperation by the people that are there for the new people to train the new people? How does it work? What issues and opportunities?
So this was the most interesting part of the conversation. I would say the age range of students I was talking to was probably somewhere around 22 or 23 to maybe about 50. So it's a good span. And this question raised kind of consistent stories from 3 or 4 different people who said that when they're working on teams, the people that they find are most willing to share knowledge, especially the kind of craft knowledge that you talked about, are the ones who are about to walk out the door, the ones who are retiring. They are in a position of just wanting to share everything they've done and make sure it carries on. The people that they consistently found the most challenge with, and they dubbed this age range, not me, were the people between 45 and 55 that they knew still had quite a bit of time left at work and were a little bit hesitant about sharing everything because they were afraid of their own jobs. So because I had not spoken to my colleagues ahead of time, one of the things that really raised for me is, wow, how do companies incentivize more experienced workers to actually work with newer workers, regardless of their age, just to bring people into the fold and make sure they knew what they were doing. And the conversation got a little carried away, but one person claimed that he was actually kind of told the process, but something, a little bit like what you said, the real way to do it was left out. So this person kind of went through a period of having a lot of rejections and, that kind of thing until they kind of demonstrate that they're going to be there for the long haul.
Well, it's interesting because it may even be what we talked about at the beginning. Think about the dynamics of a Generation X versus a baby boomer. A boomer is saying, there's a pathway and there's compensation, and I understand the pathway. And think about the Generation X. They say personal achievement and stability. Well, if you're worried about personal achievement and stability and someone says, tell this person everything you know, all of a sudden I'm not special. My personal achievement becomes everybody's. And my stability is, oh my gosh, I'm about to tell somebody all I can do. So it's interesting. This is a good example of where it'd be interesting to keep it in mind. Do any of you, other 3 of you, have anything relative to incentives or anything relative to how you encourage people to, to participate? Is there any?
I think our business, it's ingrained in the business because of the vertical integration. We're making most of the components for the lasers, so we depend on each other for survival. Since I've been at IPG 11 years or so now, only 5 people have retired. We have some approaching that, so we haven't had a lot of experience with it walking out the door. But if component B doesn't work well with component A, we don't survive as a company. So it's naturally ingrained.
What about the opposite side, though, for your company, in that you have not just grown in what you're doing, you've changed what you're doing. You've started manufacturing all sorts of things. You have divisions that you didn't have.
Absolutely.
How do you bring in the new knowledge? So not knowledge, how do you keep knowledge, but how do you bring in the new knowledge?
Knowledge. Instead of outsourcing, we're insourcing, we say. So we needed printed circuit boards, so we found there are a number of companies in the area that no longer do that. We sought out the best talent. We brought them in-house. They show others how to do that. And we're looking for a supervisor now of the PCB department. So anybody knows anybody, send them our way. But we brought it.
And to Ira's point that he was making, what a great scenario, because you're doing the design, the engineering, the manufacturing, then you're integrating yourself to your entire supply chain. You're starting to become your own supply chain.
We are our own supply
which
chain.
allows you to move faster than anyone else and get the benefits
Quality.
of first, second generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. You're publicly traded now.
We are.
Okay, everyone go home and buy some stock.
125 today, 125. It's just such a great success story. We went public in '06 and just haven't looked back. So.
And you have Photonics in your name, which is one of the centers.
There we go.
Moving on to recruitment, because that's interesting, because basically what you're saying is you're recruiting people from industry that may have even left before, but they're experts and you recruited them in. Kathy, it's funny, because we hear companies all the time. We hear companies all the time say, I can't find good people. And then I hear people say, I can't find a good job. I've sent in all sorts of resumes. Where's the disconnect? In your discussion with students, do you know, from your standpoint, do you have an idea of what the critical thing that employers can do to better connect?
So this discussion came up as well. What our students who are closer to graduation, we're talking about the frustration of doing an online employment application and not being able to make some sort of personal connection and be able to talk to somebody, demonstrate what they can do. Now, we know that that's kind of what's happened in the world, but they had just about a month before that been at an event that IPG does every spring. They are looking for very specific kinds of students who are close to graduation, who are and have been vetted by us for their readiness and their fit for a place like IPG. They bring those students in for a day, they see all aspects of the business, they get to talk to a lot of people. Meanwhile, IPG is kind of feeling them out, seeing are they a fit? Is there a place for this person in the organization? And one of the women, and we do have women in manufacturing, everybody, one of the women in our group said, I want more opportunities like that because every time I do an online application, I don't hear back from a long time. So they don't always believe that there's such a shortage in manufacturing because with the online application processes, they're not even getting feedback that says, thanks so much for your application, let me give you a sense of timeline, or no, we're not interested. They just feel like it falls into a black hole.
Why do you do the tour? I mean, there's a good view on the tour. Is there,
That's right.
How does it fit into your mix?
Right. So I don't even want to tell the audience how successful that is because then we may not hire as many of their students, but it is hugely successful. Everybody's in it for the same reason. They're looking for a job, we want to hire people. And when they come through, we're picking out the ones who are asking the sharp questions, who are at the front of the class and seemed engaged, who asked follow-up questions, who sent in their resume, who came right up to us to ask a question. And in the meantime, they're watching a laser in action in the applications lab, which is so cool to watch for anybody, that it really is a good mix. And we've hired entire graduating classes from some of the community colleges for our specific either laser programs, or Quinsig's just one of the colleges we have come in, but it's a huge success. And when your staff says, we don't have the bandwidth, because we were talking about this earlier, that Kathy hears, we don't have the bandwidth to do a tour. Neither do we, but you can't afford not to at this point. The enrollments are down, the graduating students are down. You're not going to be able to fill your positions if you don't do these things.
So how big a group do you have come through?
We had to break up into 2 groups, and we're growing so fast. The parking lot is a mess because the buildings are under construction, and so we had about 50 last year and about 50 this year from 3 area colleges. And we've done it with high school too, because we feel like we need to get in maybe just a little bit sooner, and then have them come in with community college so that they go from high school to the college to IPG.
Nicole, you don't do tours, but you have internships.
We do. So we've been partnering a lot more actively in the last few years with the vocational schools. So we rebuilt our relationship with Worcester Vocational recently, and we now have our first co-op has gone through a full year, and we actually just went to Bay Path and have another one starting in the fall, also a woman, in our machining group. So for our machinists especially, we're able to go through the co-op process. We also do have a partnership with Youth Build, which gives us the ability to bring people through our factory. So that's a big one for us. Plus, we also sponsor university projects. So we've worked with both BU and WPI to bring in groups that do small projects for us, but it's a great interview to basically say, here, do this tangible project for 2 to 3 months. Then we get to see the aptitude of the students working on the projects.
What makes for a good internship or co-op? What's the secret to doing it right?
Well, I've done it really right, and I've done it really wrong. So the things that work well is that you've got to interview the students ahead of time and make sure they're the right kind of mental fit for it. I think also having a really well-defined problem. It can't just be come solve this little thing or start to fill in gaps that we don't currently have the staffing for. It has to be a real problem with a real definition that is reasonable in the time frame that you're trying to work forward. So, for us, one of the things we're trying to pursue is automation. We don't know anything about automation, nor do we have the ability to see how it fits in an organization that does job shop type work. So we've been able to say to students, here's a little piece of our business. Can you see how automation would fit? And they give us proposals back. That's been a really good one for us to work on. At the co-op level, it's really just, here's a product line or a machine. Are you good at CNCs? Are you good at lathes? Are you good at manual machines? And finding their niche and then training them up. So it just depends on the student and the expectation. But definition is a big one.
All right, I can't resist. MassMEP is working with Mass Robotics right now, and if anyone wants to talk about how automation or robotics can fit in particular collaborative robotics, where the robot makes the person better, the person makes the robot better, speak to me afterwards. That's you too. Couldn't resist. Sorry about that. Julie, out of curiosity, we've had all sorts of discussions, manufacturers, about how to encourage people to go into manufacturing, how to encourage women to go into manufacturing, how to encourage younger people to go into manufacturing. And I mean, from silly ideas like call it something different than manufacturing, which I'm always entertained by. But why do you think manufacturing is not in the top 100 best places to work? Why is it not viewed well, and what can we do about it?
It's a perception. And when I went to Union College, and as I was graduating, it was, you're going to go off and do great things, and you're going to work for Google and Apple and high tech and be cutting edge. And I mean, even the machine shop within the university or college was one of the best I've ever seen, to be honest. Manufacturing is generally an older industry. It's not as appealing. It's not as glamorous. People don't really even know it necessarily exists or what it is. My title, project engineer. What is that? People don't know. Like, is that a mechanical? Is that electrical? What is that? So there is this vague idea around it, and when you're getting told that you're going to be working with this high advanced technology, some of it is, but I mean, in an old industry, you're not really going to necessarily walk into that. So that's not really where the appeal is for students per se. But what there is a lot of opportunity within manufacturing. So that's why it's important to get people involved at such an early age. Actually worked with the STEM program out in Marlboro High, and even starting and teaching students in high school is great. It'd be better to even start them in middle school or younger. So for me, I knew about manufacturing because of my family. I was raised around it and I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. There was a lot going on. So being exposed to it at an early age is probably the best thing possible.
And the beer flights and ping pong didn't appeal to you at Google? Is that part of the problem?
Yeah.
What's interesting, you just mentioned something, because you and I actually met at a STEM program for high school kids. Anyone else do? I know, Nicole, I know you do, but I don't remember what they were, but you're in like 3 different programs with kids.
Yeah, no, I do Destination Imagination, which is creative problem solving for kids, and it's all about STEAM or STEM education and getting kids interested in that. But even working with the schools locally, we do scientists in the classroom, so I got to introduce what manufacturing is to the youth build group and getting out in front of school. So I'll do interview panels with Nativity School to middle school, but just to give exposure to kids about what a manufacturing job looks like, because you're right, it's vague. I'm a plant manager. My daughter literally thinks I water plants. She's 5. Yeah. But to explain to her that we make things is something that's very hard for her to grasp at such a young age. But when I start to say things like, well, we're trying to make this wheel and it has a hole in the middle, and how would you make a hole? Then she starts to really get the ideas flowing. But kids know how to solve problems. You just have to show them that that's exactly what manufacturing does.
Interesting. And is anyone else involved with kids outside of the company involved with kids groups that do something, innovation or manufacturing? Anyone else on that?
So we do a significant amount of that kind of outreach work with with our own students and also with high schools and middle schools. The First Robotics is a big one. We are a regional sponsor of many, many teams. We do a lot of train the trainer for both teachers and parents that want to get teams going in their schools, and we run all kinds of competitions all year long. And actually, one of the students I talked to got into manufacturing because he was involved in First Robotics and really found that interesting. Now we've built a beautiful makerspace in our new building, and now we're looking at ways we can get more of our own students and more of our pipeline of students into that space, doing projects, making stuff. So that's kind of our next step, to kind of think through how we can use that tool for that purpose.
And if anyone in the audience, it's fun for your organization to get involved with high schools, if it's a contest or not. Before I came to MEP, I had my own business, and we sponsored Olin College, an Olin College program. We sponsored one at Babson College, and we did 2 different ones at high schools. And it challenges your internal people to think differently. It's definitely worthwhile doing. Laura, you're recruiting, you were saying you don't recruit necessarily. We talk about millennials as if they're the only people entering the job market. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there a particular group that you target more than others, or is there any particular way you recruit differently other than, or is it all ranges, all departments?
Yeah, we're just all everything, but all, focused on scientific. But we also have entry-level assemblers that don't necessarily need any background in manufacturing. So we have those opportunities as well. And being primarily in Oxford, no direct bus route. It's been a real challenge in that area to get the amount of people we need. We need to interview 4 assemblers a day in order to supply one division, our semiconductor division. And so that's a real challenge there. But we're also going to Creole in Florida to recruit for scientists. We're going to the optics universities in New York to talk to their students. So somebody on the panel before this had said, you can't recruit from your seat, from your desk anymore. Hands up to whoever had said that, but I agree. We have more than doubled our efforts over the past 2 years to get out there and find the people that we need.
Well, and wrapping up, Julie, any advice to people on recruiting in general?
Well, if you get out there, go to college fairs and whatnot, that's great. I got many interviews through that. But I went through, I kind of had a different situation for me, and I had a really, really great co-op program that I was in. And they actually weren't hiring, unfortunately, when I was graduating, but they had developed people so well that I actually went through the book of similar manufacturing companies, and that's how I found Flexcon. So I walked in with that knowledge base of the process already. The co-op program that they ran, I jumped in, and they had someone running that program that was mentoring it, really overseeing it, and they ran it like, here are your 7 projects. We're going to walk through half of them, and we're going to define what they are, what's going on, and it really I guess, was geared towards, obviously, engineers, but it's what you learn in school. It's problem solving. So it was open-ended. They let students really run with the projects, and then they check in. So they ran the program really well, and it developed young, I guess, employees or people looking for employment, which was ideal for my situation, because when I came in, I had already known the process, understood what was going on. So that's
So the co-op and the getting them on your site seems to be an interesting. The two ends of the spectrum. Kathy, any words of final wisdom on recruiting?
Yeah, so what our students said is, we just want to know that there's a demonstrated that there'll be a career path for us, and that you're really interested in developing us. But they are very anxious to meet and talk to manufacturers, really show them what they're doing, the skills they've developed. And I agree with you. I think it's getting people-to-people contact.
And Nicole, you can wrap this up with your statement. And yeah. Laura started it for you. What's your methodology now?
So it is, you can't do it from behind your desk. So, I've talked to a number of people in the audience. I recognize a lot more people in here than I did 2 years ago. And it's getting out there and just making connections. I didn't know Worcester Vocational School. Someone tapped me on the hand and put me together. I didn't know Kathy. I was able to do that. So I think the more networks and connections you can make. I sat through the Worcester Women's Leadership Conference last week and connected with the WCAC. So now we can go to the job fair in 2 weeks that we didn't even know about. So we should know about it. It's at the DCU. You should know about it. But there's so many things people are doing that you just have to start making those connections. So you can't do it from your desk. And it's not just HR's responsibility either. I'm the plant manager. It's not really my job in a traditional manufacturing environment to do this, but it's my livelihood. I've had an 8% turnaround in the last 3 months. It's going to keep going because these people half of my workforce is going to leave in the next 3 years probably. So I've got to have that pipeline available to me.
Combined with low unemployment, which makes people very, they can move around.
Right.
So that kind of wraps up where we're coming from. And I hope people in the audience, I hope you saw that there are a lot of ways of thinking, that these different groups, these beliefs that we have to address. We have to address the beliefs of the individuals, while at the same time we can only operate under one set of rules in our organizations. So thank you very much for all of you, and thank you for listening.
We actually had a nice book for everyone on the panel. We'll get it to you at the end of the awards. Thank you all so much. That was a terrific conversation, and thank you, Peter, for leading it. Brad Kane, Worcester Business Journal editor. There he is. Okay, so we're going to get into the awards right now. Brad's going to do the first 4. I'll take the next couple, and then Terry Shepard and John Killam will do the last 2. So, Brad, you're on.
So jumping right into this, first up is our Manufacturing Excellence Award in the Small Company category. Our winner is MTD Micromolding. MTD Micromolding was originally founded as Miniature Tool and Die in 1972 in the basement of founder Richard J. Tully's 200-year-old colonial home in Charlton. The company started as a manufacturer of miniature connector molds for the electronics industry. However, due to a unique focus on what's important to clients' needs, the company has transitioned to a sharp focus on micro-molded products, providing highly specialized goods that meet exact requirements of companies in the medical field. I have like a whole page. You want me to keep going?
So far, so good.
All right, yeah.
Let's go. Make a correction if you get something wrong. Okay?
Yeah, you can just whack me on the shoulders. The company employs 32 people at its Charlton plant, and it is looking to grow with an anticipated 12 to 16,000 square foot expansion. Pushing forth the expansion is the fact that MTD has managed to achieve 20% revenue growth over its previous fiscal year while expanding its reach to California and Florida. With a company philosophy of be the first, be the best, MTD strives to retain the best talent and believes in the benefits of promoting from within. The company has a very loyal employee base, takes care of its people, and invests in the most advanced manufacturing equipment and technology. The company also participates in industry conferences and trade shows throughout the year and supports local schools and programs with facility tours, presentations, and sponsoring STEM-related tournaments and competition. In addition to all of this growth and success, in October of 2016, MTD was the first micro-injection molding company in the world to receive the Metacred certification, administered by the Performance Review Institute, ensuring critical manufacturing process quality throughout the medical device supply chain. Please join me in welcoming already on the stage MTD President Dennis Tully, accepting the honor as the 2017 Manufacturing Excellence Award winner in the small company category.
Well, thank you. This is a great honor. I owe this honor to really a lot of people. What I've found is that the challenges that we face are really become everyone's problem, and we consider ourselves problem solvers. And in an effort to make smaller and smaller medical devices, we have to find new ways to create new geometry for steel and then convert that to plastic components. I've said many times that I hope I never need any of the things that we ever make, because if I do, I'm in serious trouble. But I guess the benefit to this is that there are these things that are becoming available. Our philosophy has been to try to stay ahead of everyone in this industry. I think we've managed to do that, but we recognize that that is a continuous path, and it's not a destination, it's a path. And we continue to strive to find new ways to create new boundaries to what is possible. One of the things that I heard Ira talk about was defining next year's problem. I think part of the problem we have is in actually explaining to OEM customers, very large companies, what we're already doing, so that they understand the current possibilities before they can even think about what's 5 years down the road. So again, I think that's another element that maybe many people face is if people don't understand what your current capability is, it's really difficult to understand what are you going to be able to do in 5 years. So that's a challenge for our people, and they accept it every day. And I'm, again, very proud to be receiving this award. Thank you.
In the category of Manufacturing Excellence Award for mid-sized companies, founded in 1962 by Howard Grice, Kinefac is a leader in precision metal forming and process technologies. The company manufactures parts for everything from high-precision fasteners for the aerospace industry to large studs for the power generation industry. With increasing levels of automation in the manufacturing industry, Kinefac's ability to evolve successfully over the years and retain both jobs and manufacturing right here in Worcester is due to its ability to innovate and to serve global markets. During its last 30-plus years, Kinefac has been an active exporter, expanding its footprint internationally as market opportunities arise, while continuously innovating in response to market demands. Today, Kinefac machines can be found in more than 25 countries and on every continent, and yes, that includes Antarctica. In 2016, Kinefac was awarded a Manufacturing Innovation Grant from Mass Development. The grant helps small and mid-sized Massachusetts companies solve challenges by partnering with innovation centers. Kinefac partnered with the Innovation Center at WPI and worked with a team of students and a professor using the grant funds to support research and development projects. Here's a quote from owner Leslie Grice. Kinefac is constantly improving, not just to meet the demands of our customers, but to push the edges of technology. The company takes great pride in remaining an independent, privately held company and an important part of the Worcester community. Here to accept the award on behalf of Kinefac as the 2017 Manufacturing Excellence Award honoree in the mid-sized business category is Kinefac's own VP of North American Sales, Jean Elaine.
Well, I got to say, this is my first manufacturing summit that I've attended here, and I was quite pleased with the curriculum. I thought it was a fabulous program. The panelist discussion was really super, and we're right in the middle of looking at expanding and how we go about that the best way. And there's a lot of challenges out there, and I really appreciate all the input that you guys gave. It was good for us. I'd like to thank the Worcester Business Journal for selecting Kinefac. It's a great honor for our organization, and you notice, for me to be here to accept that, this is an acceptance for the Kinefac team. This award wouldn't be possible if not to the commitment of all the people that are part of Kinefac Corporation. And I'd like to take a moment to ask our Kinefac team to stand up and be recognized. I think it's important to, this is a small sampling of our team here. Thank you. We've been in Worcester for 55 years, and we continue to exercise the vision of our founder, Howard Grice, and he's always pushed the strive to make sure that we're pushing the technology envelope, sometimes pushing it to its limit, or sometimes beyond. And you know, it's a great company to grow with, and we continue to look forward to making this a continuing effort to keep that vision going forward. I thank you, and thank you again for this presentation. Perfect. Okay, great, thank you.
Next up is Worcester-based Cogmedix, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Coughlin Companies in Westboro, which provides manufacturing services for electromechanical medical devices with a specialty niche in laser-based products. In addition, the company recently added medical device product design services to complement its manufacturing, logistics, and services model. In 2016, Cogmedix grew its revenues by, believe it or not, nearly 60% due to an expanding client base and an increased demand from existing customers. With a focus on providing an exceptional customer experience, business at Cogmedix comes from referrals 100% of the time. Cogmedix is expanding at its 17 Brendan Street location in Worcester and hopes to add another facility by the end of the year. Its employee base grew from a small handful in 2008 to more than 100 by the end of 2016. Cogmedix strives to embody a corporate culture that gives voice to each member of its team, encourages innovation and collaboration, and rewards exemplary behavior. Members of the Cogmedix team participate in a variety of programs, from hiring co-op students to hosting local events and being active members in organizations like MassMEP. It collaborates on the technical side with a variety of other medical product engineering firms through Referral Alliance Network. Timothy Murray, President and CEO of the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce, offers high praise of Cogmedix, saying, "It's a company that has shown incredible adaptability and entrepreneurship and an ability to stay ahead of the curve." Now let's welcome to the stage Cogmedix President and CEO Chris Coughlin, accepting the Large Business Manufacturing Excellence Award.
Truth be told, it's an absolute privilege to accept this award on behalf of my family and the 500 Coughlin Companies caring associates who come to work every day with incredible passion, dedication, and intelligence to create exceptional customer experiences and very lasting first impressions. Two people who are not joining us right now because they are absolutely committed to a customer who is in town from out of town are Matt Giza, who is our fearless general manager who drives success in that business every day, and Chad Burdick, who drives operations excellence in that organization every day, which are two of the key reasons why we are here today, and I accept this proudly on behalf of them. The one thing that just kept going through my mind as everybody else was giving their speeches, because I usually don't plan speeches, is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And when I look around the table in front of me, 2, 5, 12, and the others, I see passionate, dedicated, caring people who each have a piece of this plaque and have worked so hard to achieve it. So Christy, who's responsible for recruiting people in our company and pre-screening them to ensure we get the right people all the time, plays a huge role. Sarah creates the perception in the public of who we are and the culture that we promote so that we can drive people to the company. Brad drives supply chain, Scott drives compliance, Peter drives sales, Bill drives business development, Ryan drives relationship development, and then we have a handful of engineers and people who are integral in the successful launch of every one of the products that we do. So I'm very proud to accept this on behalf of not just the 100 people at Cogmedix, but on the 500 people in the Coughlin companies who continue to make our family look great every day in the environment. So thank you very much. Cheers to all of you. And if you could all stand and be acknowledged, I'd appreciate that too. Thank you.
In 2010, an idea was born by a father attending a baseball game with his son. Searching for a toy that his son could play with, he soon discovered a lack of options. So his idea? Create minifigures of professional athletes that would go with his son's Lego sets. Fast forward to 2011, and OIO Sports Toys was born. It is now a leading manufacturer of licensed sports minifigures with both physical and digital toy products. The athletic minifigures feature their own stand and unique DNA number, as well as rotating arms, bending knees, and the ability to hold a bat, stick, glove, and ball. The figures represent real-life counterparts of major professional sports teams from Major League Baseball, the National Football League, the National Hockey League, Major League Soccer, and more than 60 colleges and universities. All products are designed in Massachusetts and built with pride in America. The company imports blank parts in bulk, which allows it to respond quickly to changes in demand. Its patented technologies and production processes make it uniquely capable of responding to the rapidly changing landscape of player-team affiliations and to the quickly shifting trends in player popularity over the course of a sports season. In its 5 years of existence, OIO has raised $14 million and has sold more than 4 million minifigures. Today, the company continues to build on its fast-paced success by creating new ways for young sports fans to engage with their favorite teams and players through innovative toys, games, and interactive experiences. Now let's welcome to the stage COO Martin Hansman and Senior Manager Dan Komeyer from OIO Sports Toys to accept the award as the 2017 Emerging Manufacturer.
Well, thank you, and it's a great honor to receive this award. OIO is a very young company and has grown very quickly, and of course, with that kind of growth, there's all sorts of challenges. I really had to smile when Pat was talking about a 5-year plan and how to get your customers to talk to you about that. We're in the situation where we're lucky to get orders 5 days before we have to ship them. We're typically shipping athletes that are just getting traded or may in fact have a very stable career but are now getting moved or retiring from a particular team. So for us, a lot of the challenges that we faced in actually creating a company like OIO, where we don't make things in China and ship them over in bulk, but we make things every day based on exactly what is being ordered for that particular day, is how to automate that process. And that was really what took the team effort here. You know, the actual manufacturing part of it is one part, but it's really the team that pulled together the processes and the software automation that we do. When I started there about 4 years ago, we were challenged to make lots smaller than 1,000. It was really hard for us. We got it to the point where we can now make economically and efficiently lots as small as 10. And next week, we're embarking on a brand new phase of our company. We're launching a Kickstarter to make lots of one. You go online and you make your own OIO exactly the way you want it, how you want it. We build it the next day and ship it out to you. So that's kind of another new venture for us. And we were fortunate enough to do that in a brand new facility. The City of Marlborough helped us get into that facility. It took about a year of planning and build out, but it is really enabling the growth. And I think that's another key part of manufacturing is having the right people, but also having the right facility to enable everyone to do what they need to do in an efficient and a cost-effective way. So I want to recognize Dan. He didn't want to come up here, but he's been a partner of mine in this process for the last 4 years, and everyone else at OIO who's back there making toys right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. You know, I had an idea. I was reading about that latest capability where you can apparently can take like your face, send in a photo. So I think like next year what we'll do, instead of a plaque, is we'll get the CEO, we'll get your logo, and we'll make little OIO figures of all the winners, huh? That would be unique, huh? Can we set that up next year? That'd be great. Well, but you got to pick your sport, you know, basketball, football, whatever. I think you have to be in some kind of tank top. But at least the ones I'm looking at, the Steph Curry model's popular. A suit's okay. All right, good. All right. Okay, so I've got the next one, which is Bella Storage Solutions and F&M Tool and Plastics. F&M Tool was started in 1974 as a tooling company and eventually expanded into making molds for several major plastic companies by the 1990s. All the while, the wheels of innovation and experimentation were churning in their Leominster headquarters, and a wave of new products which would turn into their own branded divisions were on the way. In 2004, the company launched its SmartWares product line, which is made up of rain barrels, whiskey barrels, and timbers. Then in 2005, they rolled out, I should have used rolled out for the whiskey barrels and rain barrels. They rolled out the Petwares Plus product line of scoops, trays, dishes, and carriers. And in 2008, they debuted what would become the juggernaut that has really sent the company revenues through the roof, Bella Storage Solutions. These new divisions were a far cry from tooling and mold making. It was an entry into full-on retailing and required the firm to become extremely consumer aware. Well, it ends up that F&M had developed a real talent for design and innovation and built the capacity to spot and deliver to the latest trends and needs in the high-growth but highly competitive niche of storage containers and systems. Launching a new division in the teeth of a recession, remember that was 2008 they launched Bella, sounds like bad timing, but Bella Storage Solutions became the company's engine for growth, and since its launch, revenues have increased fourfold. Fast forward to 2017, and the firm has 4 locations across the country and is building a new $5 million, 227,000 square foot production facility just down the street from its headquarters in Leominster. And the innovation keeps on coming. Transparent locking chests with wheels, bright-colored utility baskets, and now, get this, a mobile app that lets customers scan their storage totes and keep a list of what they have stored where. Now, isn't that a good idea? I mean, they see all these storage systems, you wonder, like, what the heck do people even know what they have in there? So, I know it's not for the, you know, the big cube things, it's for your own boxes, but, you know, that's an out-of-the-box innovation, certainly for a plastics company to be having its own app. So you can kind of see that they are all in on innovation. For reinventing the company and its product lines and having the wisdom to not only spot, but invest in the fastest horse in the barn and drive that kind of growth takes extraordinary leadership. So in the manufacturing excellence category of product design and innovation, please recognize the extraordinary work of Bella Storage Solutions, F&M Tool and Plastics, and please come up to be recognized, owner and president, Mark Gasparo. Mark.
If we could take a minute and clap for the great introduction. We have outstanding. It's a great event today. I'm glad we're here. I want to thank the Worcester Business Journal, Mass Manufacturing Partnership, which we've used quite a bit over the years. I think I heard Roy Angel is here. Right, is Roy here? He's not. He was a great partner to us as well. He was here? He left early. Anyways, we're very much into product design, innovation, in order to beat the competition. That's pretty much our model, come out with new things faster than anybody else. It seems to have worked. We're a very trendy company. We got a lot of passionate people. We have over 100 employees now. I have 4 of them with me today. And if you all could recognize, especially one of them, Mr. Mike Brockman. If you could stand up, Mike. Mike has been my CFO, which obviously in a growth like we had, having a strong CFO is critical. But more importantly, Mike has put in well over 40 years in manufacturing in Central Mass, and he retires Friday. So if we could give him a round of applause. This is kind of like his going away party. And we'll be at the sole proprietor in 15 minutes. But thank you very much. We're very honored.
Excellence in collaboration in manufacturing. Every now and then you hear about an older couple that has been together for decades, and perhaps, sensing their mortality, decide one day to make it formal and tie the knot. Some of their friends inevitably say to them, "What took you so long?" While others would say, "I never knew you weren't married." So when Vibram USA, an Italian manufacturer of high-performance soles, and their long-standing U.S. collaborator and partner, Quabog Corp, tied the knot in 2015, it made perfect sense. Not that they were both feeling mortal, actually quite the opposite. Vibram was thriving and wanted to have a manufacturing, innovation, and development presence in the U.S., in addition to their operations in Italy and China. And Quabog was ready for the altar based on the strength of their operations, a 50-year partnership with Vibram, and the promise of a significant investment in their ability to grow together. Michael Gianfrido, president and CEO of the firm, noted the dividends that come when companies combine their expertise, helping both become more successful. In addition to the Vibram-Quabog partnership, the company has a history of collaboration with many others and works to help promote their customers' products. Vibram is a component supplier to several well-known brands that make finished shoes, supplying companies like New Balance with rubber outsoles. While New Balance does the final assembly, Vibram is a collaborator on the design and the material used to deliver top performance for the final product. For smaller customers who are just starting up or who don't want to make an investment in expensive custom molds, Vibram will also allow those firms to use products from their open collection to meet their requirements. In quotes, Vibram is showing how strong community partnerships can create good jobs and continue the proud tradition of high-quality products made in America, said Congressman Jim McGovern as part of the company's 100th anniversary celebration of their presence in Brookfield just last year. So for the Manufacturing Excellence Award for Collaboration, please recognize Vibram USA, and accepting the award on behalf of the company is Chris Favreau, the VP of Innovation and Operations. Chris.
Well, first, I'd like to say that I'm not Chris Favreau. Chris came down with a little illness the past couple days, so he couldn't make it. So I'm the Vice President of Operations there, and so I'm just as proud to come in and receive this award as Chris would be. Mike was out of town, and he couldn't make it as well. It's an honor to have this award. We work so closely with MassMEP. Some of their people are at our place so many times that we don't know if they're one of the regular employees. But it's a great opportunity. We do a lot of succession planning. That's one of our biggest things now. We have an aging workforce. So listening to the panel, you can tell that a lot of other companies are dealing with the same type of issues, and we know that. So getting the aging workforce replaced and looking for the people to come in and take their place is tough, because you get that little bit of conflict between you're going to steal my job and I'm not going to tell you everything you need to know. But we're getting through it and we're working it out. My team is at table number 9. They asked me not to make them stand up, so I'm not going to do that. Some of the team is over there. It's a great team. We have, when you talk about collaboration and winning this award, that's one of our major, feats, that we work so closely together with everyone within the plant. The engineers that come in and work with all the people, in the manufacturing plant. It's just a great friendship that these people have formed. So thank you again for the award.
Mayara, that was Richard Caron, by the way. I don't know if you introduced yourself fully, Richard Caron. Thank you, Richard, for your comments and your gracefulness. So I'm going to next ask Terry Shepard, the managing partner of Shepard & Goldstein, to come up, and Terry will present our next award. Ready, boss?
I'm ready, Peter. I'm not going to be so eloquent as you, though. Man, you must have fun writing those things out, doesn't he? God, he writes them so great, so descriptive. I just say, here's the award, congratulations, right? So I'm really excited to be here to give the Manufacturing Excellence Award for Green Manufacturing to Seaman Paper. As it was 28 years ago that I first met and started working with the Jones family when Dad was beginning to transition the management and operations to the two boys. And it's been a real pleasure to watch them grow into a global enterprise that continuously looks at innovation to make sure that they run their companies green and to lessen the burden of emissions that is polluting our environment. And as I was thinking about it at the table, I'm saying, Seaman Paper, green, kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? So I wanted to be able to read the details of the things that they have done throughout the year and have won some awards for. And I'll read through what the Business Journal has typed out for me to make sure I stayed on script, and I'd be exactly those 2 minutes, because Peter runs a tight ship, and he's right on schedule, by the way, if you've been checking your watch. So Seaman Paper Company is the leading supplier of lightweight decorative tissue papers for retail packaging, consumer products, and industrial lightweight papers. They have grown globally through continuous innovation with a strong focus on sustainable manufacturing. The company's Soft Steps Forward initiative tells the story of how they manufacture high-quality products while leaving a positive effect on their environment, their customers, and their community. The vision of their sustainability program is to be gentle on the environment and deliver on the goal of constant improvement. As part of their initiative, Siemens set a goal to decrease their purchased fuel and electricity. They now produce 90% of their steam requirements from carbon-neutral biomass and have installed a back-pressure turbine that runs on steam to meet their electricity needs. Siemens' focus on reducing greenhouse gases, acid rain, and smog is paying dividends. The company has also increased the levels of recycled water used in the paper-making process through the installation of wood-fired boilers, reducing carbon dioxide emissions by 91% over the last 10 years. The wood-fired boiler has cut oil consumption by a whopping 97%. Siemens also recycling everything from wrapping materials to bottom boiler ash, and even the steam they produce has two jobs: producing electricity and subsequently drying the paper. Because of the combined impact of all their efforts, they won the American Forest and Paper Association's 2015 Leadership and Sustainability Award for energy efficiency and greenhouse gas reduction. For the commitment to the environment and sustainability practices, I am pleased to present the 2017 Manufacturing Excellence Award for Green Manufacturing to Seaman Paper Company of Massachusetts. And accepting the award on behalf of the company is the company CEO, George Jones.
Thank you to Peter Stanton, Brad Kane, and the Worcester Business Journal for the recognition of our Soft Steps Forward initiative and for awarding us with the Green Manufacturing Award. I would also like to thank our corporate sponsor, Shepherd and Goldstein, for the nomination, and thank the other sponsors for the underwriting of the presentations today. For those of you who do not know Seaman Paper Company, we are a lightweight decorative tissue manufacturer headquartered in Gardner, Massachusetts. You may not know our name, but you have probably seen our products: gift wrap tissue at Costco and Walmart, retail packaging at Tiffany and Victoria's Secret, crepe streamers at Party City, tissue flags and Hershey Kisses, and confetti at the Super Bowl. People may not typically think of a paper mill as being a leader in green manufacturing, but sustainability has been a focus of our family-owned business for many years. And I apologize, we should have coordinated because I'm going to repeat a few things here, but just bear with me. Here are a few of our sustainability accomplishments. Since 2005, we've reduced our oil consumption by 97%, by installing wood-fired boilers which run on carbon-neutral wood chips rather than oil. This has resulted in a reduction of greenhouse gases by 92% and SO2, which is acid rain, by 99%. We have our own wastewater treatment plant, which removes 99% of the solids and BOD from the water before we return it to the Otter River. The residuals collected and the ash from our boilers are composted into premium topsoil. In fact, we have identified beneficial uses for 92% of the waste generated by our plants. We also reduced our consumption of electricity by 15% through the use of variable speed drives and LED lighting, and we were able to co-generate 8.5% of our electricity needs through our back pressure turbine. In addition to these investments, we have great employees who focus on sustainability and keep us moving on all these initiatives. Without them, this would not be possible. Thank you again for giving Seaman Paper Company the honor of the Worcester Business Journal Green Manufacturing Award.
Okay, so next year we're going to give out oil figures. We're going to have them wrapped in the beautiful tissue paper from Siemens, and at the end of the whole show, we're going to have a big what's that at the Super Bowl? The big confetti, paper confetti. All right, so we're going to use as many products as we can. Next, I'd like to invite up John Killam, who's going to do our final presentation in workforce development and productivity. John.
Okay. There are advantages to being a privately owned, held company, and one of them is you've got more room to look the long view of your business. Lampin Corporation CEO Bill DiBenedetto sees the big picture and understands that recruiting tomorrow's workforce is a long-term process, not a matter of throwing some recruitment ads online and hoping for the best. Lampin is an employee-owned company, so when they say employees' well-being and development comes first, they've got some real credibility. Lampin has very low turnover, and his average employee tenure runs about 15 years with the company. Employee ownership is a major contributor in that equation, but the recruitment and training approach is another key factor. Lampin has developed a Lampin Grant program in the Blackstone Valley, donating around $50,000 a year to seed technical programs at the schools that would not otherwise fit into the school budget. Kids get the ability to explore creative projects and touch technologies not available inside the classroom. And the company gets to engage with young adults with an open mind to manufacturing and an interest in furthering their technical, educational, and skill sets. That marriage of public and private sector has allowed Lampin to maintain a pipeline of talented workers who want to be able to grow with the company and provide numerous students access to advanced manufacturing environments where creativity and initiative are rewarded. The company also invests heavily in the ongoing education and training of its new employees and current team, and that became a big contributor to their innovation and competitive advantage. Lampin Corporation in Uxbridge, Massachusetts, is more than doing its part in recruiting tomorrow's workforce. For a relatively small firm, it's playing a big role in setting the bar high for others to follow. In the category of workforce development and productivity, please join me in recognizing Lampin Corporation. Accepting the award is Manufacturing Manager Nicole Ryan.
First, I'd like to congratulate all of the award recipients today for all of their accomplishments. I am accepting this award for our president, Bill DiBenedetto, and also all of the employee owners at Lampin Corporation. Wish to thank the Worcester Business Journal for selecting Lampin and recognizing its achievements in workforce development and productivity. 17 years ago, Scott Rossiter, our chairman, chose to create an employee stock ownership program trust, otherwise known as an ESOP. to open the door and foster growth and employee development. He had a vision which allowed Lampen to become an innovative asset, an innovator in asset utilization as well as machining technology. We are here accepting this award as a public acknowledgement of the success of that decision. Lampen's ability to attract talented individuals to support its growing needs is evident from the schools, other companies, and throughout the state. Our incentive programs serve to support exceptional performance because our employees can easily relate the responsibility to their reward program. Every day, the Lampen employees face new and difficult challenges machining complex materials. Machining systems has become so advanced that it is a daily race to stay up with the depth and robustness of the machining software programs, the machinery itself, and all of the tooling. Our folks advance because they love the challenge and especially the rewards. Over the past year, they have embraced another major advancement called Lampen Flex. Our plant now operates 6 days a week for a total of 110 hours per week. However, our machinists' hours have been cut by 10%, and our productivity has grown by approximately 20% with only a minor cost increase in electricity. We now reward our employees with 5 hours of free overtime each week and 26 four-day weekends every year. Their willingness to innovate continues to keep Lampen in the forefront of personal development and productivity. Lampen is proud of this award and its continuing advancements, and we look forward to a very bright future. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the program. I want to thank, again, John and the team from MassMEP, Terry Shepard and Shepard and Goldstein, our corporate sponsors, supporting sponsors, Clinton Savings Bank, James Monroe Wire and Cable Corp, Marsh McLennan Agency, Northeast Efficiency Supply, Quinsigamond Community College, and special thanks to our host, College of the Holy Cross, and also to Curry Printing, Elevation Exhibits, Mark Serra Productions, Revelation Productions, Ron Belay Photography. Thank you, Ron. I know Mark mentioned, we're out of here, we're heading over to the Soul, but actually we've got some food and some beers to drink right now, so let's have a pop here first and then we'll let you go. Please enjoy. Congratulations to everyone. Thank you.